Hello and welcome everyone to another episode. Yes, so I finally took this thing out of the garage orbit. I stole it from the old man and I took it out of the garage and took it up for a nice little spin. Yes, I finally decided to, I had a lot of time today, and yes, so yes, to Eve for our first mission. Now you might notice, yeah, I did use a lot of fuel, and there's a few explanations for that, but mostly the RCS and the other fuel. Mostly the reason why it was used was because, yeah, I just, let's see, what was I going to do? I launched this thing out of Kerbin orbit, like near Kerbin orbit. I pretty much took off right where it was last time. So, well, I should say the last episode. And that was kind of a problem. It did burn. If I could get that fuel back, if you look at where my mouse is, I probably would be somewhere around right there. Like close to where it says 0. I was like in a really big debate with myself, basically, and I'm like, well, if I just, because if you guys notice in my last episode, my last episode featuring the Jool SS Explorer, or not the Jool SS, whatever, carrier. Yes. No, yeah, if you guys noticed my last episode on that, repeating myself 46.5 times, I gotta add the half, I ended up, when I put on the tug, it kind of would rock around a lot, and it really didn't help out much, if you know what I mean. It just didn't do what I wanted it to do. This thing might not be tug worthy, whereas my last creation kind of ended up working out a lot better with the tug feature, just kind of tugging the things out of orbit or putting them in orbit. What I'm going to do is when I come back to Kerbin with this, I will eventually just leave it in, maybe a 1,000,000 by 1,000,000 orbit or something along those lines, something close enough to where it's not so much of a problem. Now, replacing the Xenon is going to be kind of a problem. That's the only thing I see as being a problem. Only because I don't have Xenon storage anywhere. What I planned on doing is using the moon refueling station kind of as the waypoint of refueling these massive ships that I have. Now, I'm going to do my orbital, my orbital burn, get this thing in a nice Eve orbit, but, well, sort of nice Eve orbit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back out on this end and then kind of fix the orbit a little bit, because it is a little bit of a funky orbit. What I kind of plan on doing with this more so is, wow, somebody forgot to turn on the SAS. There we go. Turn that on, turn off RCS, because, God, I'm gonna watch. Here's RCS on. Yeah. No, you just don't do that. I'll probably say goodbye to those tanks in like 3 seconds if I leave it on. So, yeah, no, I ended up doing my whole travel off of camera, and that was mostly because I was looking more towards testing this thing, and this was kind of my baseline, test, if you want to call it that. This thing, hold on. Kill engines, speed up time, there we go. Now, turn on, there we go, because it was rocking around too much. I wasn't liking that. It normally doesn't rock around in flight, but, well, let me check Alright, we're running low on fuel. Now, the only way to really get fuel into this thing, into this end tank here, is by transferring it out. I ended up, in one of my tests, letting my engines completely suck that tank dry to see if it would start taking from these other tanks in here, and it doesn't. I think that has to do with, you know, I don't think it's like a design flaw. I think it has to do with the actual game not liking that idea. So, you know, you can't get everything that you want, but you can always try. Now I'm thinking about maybe putting this thing into a polar orbit. I'm not sure. Another thing I was really considering is maybe doing some kind of a ghillie station. Maybe my next one, maybe I'll go to ghillie and kind of just put the same station that I have in orbit around ghillie. This is gotta be one of the coolest things I think I've ever done. Compared to a lot of the things I have done in this game, which, if you guys have been around for a while, you do know that I have done some crazy stuff. So, I'm gonna probably pull this in just a little bit more, and then I think I'm gonna try to fix this orbit a little bit. I don't know if I'm gonna leave it in a polar orbit, or if I'm gonna put it in just to a regular, you know, circular orbit around. But, you know, in any way, it is a circular orbit, so, well, I could try to match it up with ghillie, but that, I don't want to waste too much fuel. Once this thing gets into a certain extent, I am going to switch over and just use my solar engines. So I'm going to save some fuel doing that. Since we're already in orbit, it really doesn't matter. So I'll just power these up and then just deactivate each one slowly. You gotta do it kind of like, you know, if you're doing lugs on a car or something. Just do, you know, X and then X. That way it doesn't freak out too much, because if you end up turning one engine on like this, you'll end up kind of freaking out the thing. It'll start turning a little bit and stuff like that. So this thing should be, well, these should be kind of helping with the whole correction of the orbit. I did kind of do my burn a little bit ahead of time, and that was kind of stupid of me, but whatever. I really don't think I ended up burning even close of the amount of fuel that, you know, the whole, you know, what is it, conservation of fuel, you know, I was close enough, you know, as far as, you know, orbits are concerned, but maybe I'll just keep one of these engines on, because I kind of am impatient. I'll just put the very center engine on. And I'll actually stop it too right now for a second. I'll get in a little bit closer. I don't know how much time that is. Alright, 1 minute is good enough for me. And just line this thing up. Now I can use the gimbaling of the engine a little bit to righten it, because it's just, you know, like, imagine, you know, on a smaller ship, you know, a smaller design, the gimbaling of the engine is like way more than enough. Like this thing, like, I'm holding it down for like a minute and it's finally starting to get to where you need it to go. But yeah, I don't want to use too much fuel on the whole correction of the orbit. I don't want to leave my space station in that kind of a weird orbit. That's just kind of funky. You know what? If I wasn't on a video right now, I think I would do it the other way, but I'm going to just, yeah, you know what? I think I got enough fuel to get back. Even then, if I don't, I still have these solar engines, and if you look, these panels are producing peak wattage, way over peak. It would be really, really cool to bring some kind of, what is it, like an ion-powered ship out here with maybe like, you know, if this one panel produces 47, each one, or let's just say that's 48, that means this one panel has enough to power 4 of these. So you could realistically have 4 panels on a ship that power, you know, I could probably pull all these in, and these 4 panels could power all 4 of these. So you're looking at that's 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 newtons of thrust. And that's relative to, I think, 4 of the really, really small engines. Those, the engine for ants. How am I looking at fuel? Alright. Yeah, I gotta transfer some in. I really love the design for this, and that it works very well, that all 5 of these suck off of one tank. If it was any different, like my other ones, it probably would be a problem. It's just too much of, you know, stuff you have to go through in order to get that to work right. Now, I wonder, and this is the only part that I'm really curious about, if one of these has enough power to get all the way to Gilly and back. I mean, I don't really mind if I can just get 1 to Gilly, but I would really love to see getting 1 to Gilly and back from Eve orbit. Even if it doesn't, you know, whatever. I'll look at maybe doing orbital corrections and everything else next episode, or, you know, I might end up just doing that on my own, you know, more so. But I figured I'd make an episode to show you guys that this thing has made it here. You know, it's kind of a big thing to me, because a lot of you guys kind of heard my rants about building these huge ships like this, and you know, it makes me feel kind of good that, you know, it is in fact working pretty well. You know, the fuel, like I said, I'm not so concerned with, because a return trip shouldn't be so bad. But I don't want to get these things in too close of an orbit to where, get this thing too close. Wow. Yeah, I don't want to get this thing too close of an orbit, mostly because, you know, breaking that orbit and then getting back out into the solar system will eventually become a problem. So that's the only real negative side. I mean, I'm going to end up flipping this thing. I'm gonna have to flip it around, you know, bring this side down, bring this side up, and end up getting it into some kind of an orbit to where when I go to leave again, I can get right back into Kerbin again. I don't know why, but I always end up in a polar orbit. It's just kind of the thing that always happens. But it works out in any way. You know, it works out. Well, it's all good. It ain't no thing but a chicken wing. So, yeah, that is amazing. And yeah, I'm going to go now. I'm going to keep getting this thing into an orbit, and I will see you next time.